just when you thought it was safe to go onto iTunes. This is Next Level Guy, the only website that makes self-development as fun as going to the movies. It's time to take the red pill and escape the Matrix.
What's happening, guys? It's time for another episode of the Next Level Guy Show podcast with your favourite tutor, Ian Dawson-Mackay. Next Level Guy is the go-to men's interview, interest and improvement website, where I quiz the experts to find out the hacks, tips, methods and protocols that you can implement in your own life to take it to the next level and live happier, wealthier, healthier, sexier and so much more. Today's guest is Crystal, Little Monster Demopoulos. She's a MMA fighter, business owner and exotic dancer. She's beautiful and a graceful dancer, stunningly beautiful, but a devastatingly dangerous fighter too. She started from a rough place and built herself up to be a professional fighter, run her own business, and make serious money from her own side job. She's someone to watch and to learn from and inspire you to do the same. She's proof that you can achieve anything you want from life, and regardless of your starting point, by putting in the work. I had a seriously great time with this interview and was really disappointed to end it, so I'm definitely going to get her back on the show. I know you'll love her as much as I did during this interview. I still had pages of questions left at the end. Despite being stunningly beautiful, seriously talented and going places, her story and viewpoint on life are so inspiring and motivating, and it is there that we find out the real gems. So, are you ready to dive in and learn? Let's get to the interview. If somebody's never met you, and they really should be ashamed if they don't know who you are, but if they've never heard of you, how would you describe who you are? Because your nickname's awesome. You do some amazing stuff, but, if you had to give a kind of quick intro to somebody, what would you say?
Probably one of the most positive humans that you'll ever see and meet, and wildly ambitious and happy, just loving life and being completely unique in having a profession like fighting and stripping, yet being such a wholesome person.
Yeah, because your Instagram really, when I started reading that, it was like, badass Christian professional fighter and exotic dancer, and I was thinking, sorry, what? It was quite surreal. But if we go right back to the start, what kind of child were you? Did you have a particular kind of natural acclimity to a certain to sports and stuff? What kind of got you into this whole kind of endeavors?
So growing up, I got into so many fights as a kid, and I just always had all the energy in the world, and I was a really angry kid in general. And I actually got myself kicked out of 4 schools in 1 calendar year, which is impressive to say the least. Mainly for fighting. And I was always into the guy sports. I was always hanging out with guys. I played football growing up in 7th and 8th grade, and I was a skater chick all throughout my teens. So when people that I went to high school with hear that I became a fighter, they're like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. You should be a fighter. That's what suits you. And as far as being an exotic entertainer is concerned, I actually grew up in that industry. It's what my parents did. So when I turned 18, I saw it as something that was going to be fun. I looked at all the different pole tricks that were possible and saw those as different skills to achieve, as well as just literally getting paid to party. So I chose that as a profession, and my parents kind of helped guide me through that. And it was really amazing.
No, that's awesome. I mean, it's so, you hear that a lot, don't you? As people sitting going, oh, I had to do it against my parents' wishes, they kicked me out the house, and I'm just like, that's why I love having so many positive people on here who come and say, no, it was great, my parents were very supportive, they did this and that, Were you able to talk to your parents, not on the same level, but were you able to discuss your sort of hopes and ambitions and stuff like that? How did they take you wanting to go into that kind of that role of fighting and the dancing?
Yeah, so as an entertainer, it was kind of one of those things where they were like, man, we wish that you choose something else, but if this is what you're going to do, this is actually something we can help you with, because it's how they met. My mom was a dancer and my dad was a DJ. So they really kind of taught me the ropes and the hustle behind everything to make sure that I didn't fall into some like scary pitfalls that can happen in that industry. And with being a fighter, like growing up, my dad was always like encouraging me to just be tough. And, he wanted me to do karate and that stuff. And I wanted to. So when I became an adult, I think like, yeah, they're freaking cool, man. I'm sorry. Is it okay that I cuss? Because I cuss sometimes.
I'll be swearing all the time. Don't worry.
All right, excellent. And so it was like, but everything that I've done, they've always thought it was going to be just a phase. So with dancing, they were like, oh, this is just a phase. And with fighting, especially, I took it so seriously right from the rip, and they thought it was going to be something that was fly by night, like, oh, she'll get into something else here in about a month. And next thing you know, like 9 years later, I'm still kicking ass.
I love that, because it's like you get the performer sort of like hints and tips and things like that, but then you also get like the the DJ thing, the how to keep the atmosphere going, how to entice patrons in, how to like build up the performance, and you get the sales technique as well. And I think that's something a lot of us struggle with, is a lot of people can't even speak to their parents. And I really love that they encouraged you as a child, and they really pushed you into like, if you want to do that, let's go and work on that. Were you what were you like as a child? Were you the kind of the roughhouse child all the time? Did you need something physical when you were younger, to get that, not anger, but the
energy?
The energy, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we can call it anger, because honestly, that's what I was as a kid. I was very, very hard to deal with and hard to manage. I wish I could be like, yeah, like, man, I had a cool childhood. It was great. And peaches and cream, but it wasn't. I was a very unruly child. I was always getting into trouble. Always, having police escort me home. I was a bad seed. And I think it was really difficult. I was raised by my grandparents. My parents were like my best friends, but it was really difficult for my grandparents to manage. And I just didn't have an outlet. I guess as an adult, I found out that I had really severe ADHD, and just having all that energy and not having much of a source of an outlet to come from. It was rough. I was a bad kid.
So where did you find that outlet? Was it through the training in like MMA, or was there something before that kind of you started feeling you could channel your like the energy and start focusing on the creation? Because your pictures of your dancing are so beautiful and elegant and controlled, and you can see the muscle control you have, as well as looking awesome. I'm a single guy, obviously, but then when you do the fighting, you can see the exact same thing. You're in complete control. Your movement of you're controlling your opponent before you finish them. So where did that come from? Where did the unruly child become this kind of explosive when you need it, but completely controlled before you go in for the kill?
Man, I love your breakdown of that, because that truly is exactly how I feel as a fighter. I feel very composed. I feel very much in love with the moment. And I really believe that a lot of, kids who are unruly or who are wild and, categorized as bad kids, you just kind of haven't found their outlet. They haven't found their passion. They haven't found what's in their heart, and they feel misunderstood. I really, I ended up becoming like a homeless drug addict teenager at one point, just out of being a misfit and not finding my place. And I think that was like probably my, some of my darkest moments, where I started making life decisions like, okay, so you're going to allow your negativity to own you, or you can start taking control of this. So I think that as a fighter, that's something that I get to exemplify, is the control mixed with the aggression. So it's like that angst that I have to be an animal and to just let out all of this energy, but also having that composure to see things and, just being able to kind of shift gears amongst those two mindsets is crazy. And as a dancer, I just purely love the art of music, and I purely love the art of dancing, and getting to just be an acrobat and do all of these crazy, amazing tricks. When I get off stage, people ask me, like, were you a gymnast or did you do Cirque du Soleil? And those are like the highest of compliments, because I love body mechanics so very much, and the functionality of it, and just, being able to kind of like maneuver through these wild and crazy tricks. It's amazing, and it's graceful, and it's beautiful, and I know that it's something I would love to see more of. So I just became what I enjoy and want to see in others.
I love that. It's, you mentioned there that you were going down like a sort of dark path, and I mean, I was deep depressions. I was thinking end of the world, nothing was going right for me, and I kind of had to find my own way, and I found it through running this podcast, and then I found jiu-jitsu, and I was like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. But how did you come out of that? Did you need somebody to help you out of that, or did you find a way? I mean, if somebody's listening who's struggling in that kind of environment, is there tips that you could give somebody that worked for you, or kind of helped you sort of shake it off and get on the path you wanted to be on?
Yeah. Oh man. I think a lot of those types of moments, and everyone has their own personal journey, so I'm just going to share mine, guys. But I really came from a place of like just loathing and like just hating myself, and really taking a look in the mirror and evaluating where I was, I think is the hardest thing for anyone to do, because it's a scary thing to look at. And, I just really saw myself as worthless, and I was like, man, like, this is it. Like, this is as low as it gets. Like, there was literally one step lower, and that's like standing on the side of the highway begging for change. Like, that's that's where I was in my life. And I was like, okay, so you can do that. That's an option. And you're going to struggle doing that. Or you can start to become more, because you are worth more, but that's going to be hard too. Like, you don't have an education. Nobody believes in you. You're completely by yourself, and you're literally in the worst position ever, and you've shunned everyone out of your life. So I guess you're going to have to show yourself through action and start growing. So I started like reading books and, just like trying to take the small tips that people had given me through life and applying them. But man, like, I've dug into depressions even throughout the course of the success, when I wasn't homeless, and when everyone else thought that I had everything, it still would creep up on me. And I just got to tell you, like, it ends, like, the depression is a feeling that you're having in that moment. It's not real. It's something that you are creating, and you're creating it through your negative thoughts. So start changing that shit, and tell yourself to shut the fuck up. Because I've had to do that. I've literally started like getting down on myself about things, and I'd be like, shut the fuck up. Like, your life is great. And even still, like, I would still be sad, but I tell myself every day, like, Vanessa, I love you. Vanessa, you're doing great. And because sometimes we don't have other people who are going to tell us that, and you got to say it to yourself. So I'm really huge on positive affirmations. I'm really huge on talking to myself. And, just like listening to that, because, that's some of the most powerful voices that you'll ever have are the ones that you say to yourself.
I'm really impressed with that, because it's like, what is it they say? The best help is self-help. And I think we forget that, we're always trying to fix other people. And I think that you're very similar to me, like that, you had because you're creative, you've got a lot of energy and passion. You could also feel that you were like destined for more and more, but you couldn't figure out what you wanted to do, so you're maybe judging other people who had found their vibe. Maybe they were the small fish in the big pond, but they had found their thing, and you were maybe feeling that energy of wanting to go off and do things, and you didn't know how to do it or how to apply it or what your mission of, I hate that kind of phrase, but what you wanted to do. So you kind of thought you were fighting against it by drinking and stuff like that. Because that's what I used to do. I used to go and sit in a pub and go, what the hell am I doing here? I don't want to be here listening to the same 5 people tell the same 6 stories, And I think it's really difficult, because a lot of people do that. They just sit and hit the drink, they hit the drugs, and think, they don't want to feel that feeling of there is more to life than this. But I loved how you kind of just went, no. You took a deep look at yourself and thought, yeah, I'm going to armbar the shit out of that, and I'm going to off and do my own thing, yeah? So
I really did. I looked at it and I said, you know what? Fuck that. Like, I've already lived that life. I did the party thing. That was cute, and it wasn't for me. Like, I didn't get self-fulfillment through getting high all the time or, just being around negative people. Like, that's, they could be your best friends in the whole wide world, but if they're really your best friends and they want the best for you, and if you have to move on to find yourself, to be happier, then if they're really your friends, they'll encourage that because they want to see the best for you. And if not, well, then they weren't really your friends anyways, and get the fuck to moving because you deserve to be happy.
So how did you deal with your friends at that time? Because I had originally planned to do this interview looking at like how you train for like your fights and stuff like that, but I think this is a really good sort of area because this would help a lot of people, and to show how you've become such a badass from an interesting beginning, shall we call it. But how did you deal with your friends at that time? Because I really struggled breaking connections. I was scared to kind of go off and do this on my own. But I need running the podcast, working, and jiu-jitsu. And I need to be busy. But for people who will try, like they're crabs in the bucket, they'll try to pull you back. They don't want you succeeding. Yeah. So how did you deal with that kind of friends? How did you analyse these toxic friends and bake that cat to get rid of them?
Yeah, and I believe that, a lot of people who come through your life are, there for a time and, they serve their purpose, and whether that was being your best friend and having those hard conversations for a moment, but then maybe they kind of, became toxic for your life. And what we do is we have a tendency to hold on to that. We're like, man, like we had that one really good experience with this friend, and that's so valuable to me that I don't want to disrespect it and move on with my life. And fuck, man, that's not the case. Like, your friends love you, and they're going to love you whether you're right in front of them or whether you're living your best life. And in fact, they love to watch you live your best life so that they can fucking cheer you on. Like with all of my toxic friends that I had, I just really had to look at myself and be like, is this what I want for tomorrow and every single day? And there's people in my life now who I love them, and I love them with all my heart. And I even tell them, like, you might not be in my life tomorrow, but just know that the moment that you're here today, like, you're everything to me, and I've had to live my life that way because, like you said, we will get sucked in to our associations. And so I just kind of become a little bit more careful about who I choose to spend energy on. But that came with time and knowing and having gone through that hard shit.
Because I've got friends now, like through jiu-jitsu and stuff like that, who would be the same people if I became super successful or my podcast completely sucked. But like, I've got a friend, Ryan, who's like, if I don't speak to you for a couple of months, doesn't mean we're not friends. I'll still pick you up and we'll start chatting like there's no, like there was no time at all. And I think those kind of people who are truly just wanting the best for you. They don't want anything from it, and it's really hard sometimes to sort of prune your circle of friends and say, actually, you're just using me, you're not getting anything from it. And was it a friend or was it a role model that got you into the fighting, because you would have got the dancing sort of vibe from, like, your upbringing, but where did the MMA stuff come from? How did you learn to channel that kind of aggressive energy?
Yeah. And, before we move on to the next question, though, I definitely just want to hit the point home of changing your circle doesn't have to be aggressive. It doesn't have to be something where you like have a conversation with someone like, hey, look, we can't be friends. Like,
the confrontation.
No, fuck that. Just keep living your best life. And if they're there, they are. But so who got me into MMA? It was a great story, actually. I was pole dancing as a stripper, and the manager at the time saw my skill set and was like, man, if you just put that same skill and effort into fighting, because I do have a very aggressive style of pole dancing as well. And he's like, if you put that same effort towards fighting, you'll be successful. And at the time, dancing wasn't like a fitness thing like it is now. He's like, hey, and it's more socially acceptable as well. So it was cool. It was a cool experience, kind of like being found as a stripper to be a fighter. And then that whole experience. And then that person ended up becoming my coach for the next 5 years.
Because it's one of those stories that you kind of go, sorry, what? Because usually people kind of go, oh, I've been training for this all my life and that. And I loved that Instagram post that you put up where you showed you on the pole, like a split screen, and you and competing, and you were like, they're exactly the same. And I think that's the problem is people, they kind of like turn their nose up at, like strip clubs and stuff like that, and you're thinking, that's one of the oldest commodities going, is these kind of shows. And it's the fact that you showed how like beautiful both sides of it were, and how you were doing the exact same thing, and it was amazing to see that kind of thing. I mean, I've got friends who do pole dancing like classes and all this kind of stuff. I speak to some amazing people, and everybody's got an amazing story to tell, and I just love the fact that you were found as a stripper and now are knocking people out left, right, and centre. And you're running a business, and you just seem to be non-stop doing this. But did you ever have any sort of negative connotations with anybody? Any kind of negative feedback from people because of what you were found doing?
You know what? Actually, no. And that is actually also shocking to me, because you'd think that people would be like, oh, like she's a stripper, whatever, and just kind of write me off. But I'm really grateful to have done to be the person who I am, because I feel like when people meet me or when they hear me, they kind of take me at face value. And one major thing that I love so much about being a stripper that people don't ever realize is I really get to see people's true colors right off the rip. Because if you're going to judge me, then that tells me so much about the person who you are. Yeah. And it also kind of shows me the type of people who I don't want around me. So, it's almost like a thank you very much, and I'm glad that we're not going to get along. Because you have such strong opinions about who people are before you even know who they are. So, it's a great filter.
Because it's one of those things, isn't it? Is like, your job does not define you. Your hobbies do not define you. It really annoys me when somebody will say things like, oh, watch out for so-and-so when you start a new job. And I'm thinking, no, I'll wait till I'll treat everybody exactly as they treat me. I don't care what their past and all that is their past. Until I have any problems with them, then the present becomes an issue. But
that's right. Yeah, it's not who you are. It's just something that you do. So being a stripper isn't who I am, but it is what I do. Same thing with being a fighter. It's not who I am. It's what I do.
And how did you find that transition from like the graceful, feminine kind of like art to like the very kind of beautiful, graceful kind of arts of dancing? Because you do, is it ballet as well? Or am I
actually do not do ballet. I've never done any other type of formal dance and or gymnastics outside of being a stripper.
Maybe it's a picture I've seen somewhere where I think you were, maybe that's what I'm thinking of, because I was thinking you look so kind of like prim and proper and into that kind of pose, and I thought, fuck, she's good, So how did you go from that to, I hate this phrase, but the masculine, primal kind of side of fighting? I mean, I hate that because it sounds like only guys can fight, but... Yeah,
it sounds so very brute. Very primitive. Man, I guess, and that's so hard because for me, I'm a very passionate person. And both arts are very functional. Both arts require you to understand your body, understand different mechanics, and being able to transition very quickly, and think very fast through your body motions. And people don't give both dancing and fighting that type of a respect. They see someone trying to dance and they think oh, they're just doing a move. Yeah, but we're chaining a series of events together. And same thing with fighting. You're chaining a series of learned skill together quickly enough that you can, overcome your opponent. It's just fighting and dancing are the same, but when you're fighting, you're basically dancing with someone else.
I love the way you look at things. It's an amazing way that you look at things, and you'd be a great podcaster as well, actually. But, so how did you find your first couple of lessons? Did you find it like the fact that because you could do the transitions, like, you know, from starting to onto the pole to hold, you know, to like doing the human flag. Sorry, I don't know any pole dancing moves, but or you know, and inverting yourself and stuff like that. Did you find the basics and the fundamentals of jiu-jitsu and MMA easier for you because you had that natural flexibility and coordination of your body and things like that?
Oh, 1,000,000%. Oh my goodness, yes. Like,
I certainly didn't.
yeah, absolutely. Great question. I feel like everything that I became as a pole dancer transferred so well, so easily. You know, anyone who rolls with me, they're like, man, like, you're so flexible, but you're so strong in your flexibility. You know, so most times people are one or the other. And with pole dancing, I had to teach myself. You know, I learned through falling on my face in front of a lot of people, basically half naked. So when I started fighting, and it's like, man, like, you have a coach who's guiding you, and you have the option to tap. You know, like, as a dancer, I mean, if I fall, fuck. Like, sometimes I'm up 30 feet in the air hanging on by one limb. You know, so as a fighter, we have options. We're far more protected. And it's just everything transferred so beautifully.
I love how, you know, it's just the fact that you've discovered cross training without realizing that's what you were doing originally. Because I've got friends who are trying to get me to come and do like a couple of judo classes to work on my takedowns for jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. But I love how you're just like, yeah, somebody recommended I try it. I went and tried it. And, you know, it's only now that when you analyse it back, you go, oh, right, that's going to impress me. So do you think everybody should be doing some kind of dancing, you know, like to get the way to get your hips to sort of follow your brain, to coordinate your limbs and style, you know, and things like that, like salsa, I don't want to call it erotic, pole dancing, you know, like, do you think everybody should have some kind of dancing just to get your coordination and stop being a wooden knob, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I highly recommend dancing of all different kinds, and not just from, you know, the understanding of fluidity, but also from the understanding of confidence. You know, like, when you dance and you really are just all of yourself into that motion, because it's free expression, you know, and you just get all of this confidence, and it's like, man, like, I'm the shit. Like, I feel good. I look good. I'm awesome right now. Like, I love the way my body's moving. And that's like, I love dancing in my soul, you know? And I think that whatever someone's passion is, they need to be able to express that. So I'm not going to say everybody should be a dancer, but to be able to express yourself in motion is a beautiful thing, and whatever that translates to someone else. But yeah, absolutely, yes.
Because I love how you learn to take the two sides. You know, you've got the dancing, but you've also got the little kid who wants to rumble and hit people and, you know, wants to play boy sports. But you've learned to put them together in this sort of beautiful way. So how do you incorporate this into like a training week? You know, because, I mean, I struggle enough just learning jiu-jitsu with working a podcast. I mean, you're doing MMA. There's so many concepts. There's like striking, takedowns, ground games. You know, there's like jiu-jitsu, judo. There's wrestling. There's thousands of things to go into it. How do you plan your week? I mean, is it the fact? Do you have to kind of just rely on your coach training, or do you kind of throw in your dancing as well as other things? So, what would like a typical week be like for you?
Well, you know, I'll give you the last 24 hours as a good example. So, like, I really do try to mix in, like you said, we have so many different sports that we must learn as an MMA fighter, and then on top of dancing. So it's like I'm consistently physically exerting my body. And yesterday I went to training. I did a lot of physical rehab and gave my body some repair time. And then I went to work during a day shift. And then that way I could kind of create my income, and then went home, ran my business for a little while, and woke up at 6 a.m. to go do jiu-jitsu. Went straight from that to go do wrestling, post that, and I worked out from 6 a.m. until 12 p.m. And then, drove an hour out here, and now I'm about to do striking tonight. So I really do manage my time in between. My training is priority. I work in between training, and then I run my company in between working and training.
You're like my dream girl. I love this. Like, it's this. I love how you're so positive, and you don't take shit. You just say, "Oh, I could make a business out of this." So you went and did it, and you started creating. I mean, I've been on the site and stuff, but I mean, it's like, how do you find the time for this? How did you learn like time management and control of this? Because I know what it's like when you have 50,000 emails to deal with, plus you have to go to training, and then you have to leave to go to work and stuff. How do you manage this kind of thing? Because you do it so well, but for somebody who's just starting out, who's struggling, maybe going to jiu-jitsu and their work, or how can we build this consistency muscle?
Yeah, you prioritize yourself, and it's like, what is important to me? So maybe if jiu-jitsu is not on someone else's list of importance, then they're not going to put that sitting in front of the TV at home. So if I don't work out, oh man, like my attitude is different and it's unpleasant, and I don't feel like myself, and I feel like shit, and I'm an asshole to people around me, and I start becoming unmotivated in other areas of my life. So it's like, I got to prioritize that stuff. And if I don't go to work, no one calls me. I don't have a boss. No one tells me like, hey, you didn't show up today. But it's like, well, do you want to be able to enjoy your life? Like, do you want to have food in the fridge? Like, it's not optional for me. And then making sure that I take that time to go to the beach. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see I'm always trying to have fun. I'm always trying to go out and do cool shit, whether it's hiking or the beach. And man, you got to take care of that mental space too, because if I just work all the time, what's the fun in that? What the fuck am I working for? So you got to prioritize fun, but it's got to be on the list.
I had to remind myself of that today.
Yeah, you got to take care of your mental space, man, because, I mean, shit, everybody was going to go, we get tired of things, and we get burnt out, and that's very real. Everybody wants this hustle all the time. I work 7 days a week. I have no days off. Like, yeah, that's fucking cute, until you catch the flu, and then you can't do anything because you overworked yourself.
Quite a few people have talked about that, of how, like, this concept of you must be grinding every day is bullshit, because you can't work all the time, then you start picking up little colds and bugs and stuff like that, and a lot of times people can only focus for so long. So when you are going to like your striking or you're going to your jiu-jitsu, how do you make sure, like, what mindset do you go into each class with to make sure you're getting the most from it? Have you found a way that shortens your learning curve because you have so much to take in? Is there anything that is there any tricks or hints that you found that really, that really help you develop your skill set in such a quick fashion? Because you've really come on from what I've seen, and your roles are amazing. But
thank you.
But how do you find this? Because how have you improved so quickly? Basically, is what I'm asking.
Hell yeah! No, thank you. First off, for the amazing compliment. And I go into every class with, what's one thing? What is today's detail? What is the detail I'm going to take away? Because at this stage of the game for myself, when you're first starting, everything looks like a giant clusterfuck of craziness, and you're just trying to figure out your body. But at this stage of the game as a professional, it's like, we've seen all of these moves at least once or twice. You've gone through these motions before. So how do you get better is by finding the details in the moves, So, my hand placement needs to be a little bit different. I could be more crisp. I could push myself a little harder. I can jump a little higher. And it comes down to the details, If you're not pushing you, your coach is only going to be able to push you so far. You know, you got to fucking want that shit. So you got to walk in there with like, okay, so what's today's detail? You know, I was in a class this morning, and the coach gave me like 4 different things that I needed to work on. I'll tell you, I don't remember all 4, but I remember one that was very important that I was like, I'm never going to do X again because this one detail stuck. Especially I have ADD, man. Like that shit's, you know, it's in one ear and out the other, but I really hang on to something that's very, very solid and something that makes sense. So quality in details.
Well, now seemed a great time to take a quick break there, so I just wanted to give you a quick note about my affiliate scheme. I've set up some awesome deals with some amazing companies. If you go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates, that's www.nextlevelguy.com/affiliates, or if you click on the affiliates deal in the blue ribbon at the top of the website homepage, you can go straight to my affiliate wonderland. There are so many special offers, listener exclusive deals, and discount codes available here. There really is something there for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're buying for yourself, a special occasion, or for somebody else. You can find whatever you need there, and there's a lot of inspiring companies and interesting products that you might not have seen before, but you'll definitely want. There's companies like Onnit, Amazon, MeUndies. There's products there that can help you with dating, sporting equipment, tactical gear, outdoor equipment, gadgets, and so much more. If you need it, it's there, and stuff you will want that you never knew you needed. Simply go to www.nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and enjoy. Now, please note, I do not receive any information on you or your purchases. All I receive is a small commission from the business as a thank you for sending you to shop with them via my website links. This doesn't affect the price you pay, but it helps me to develop and expand the podcast, so I'm extremely thankful for you to taking the time to spend your money via my links. You're helping me make this podcast better and better each week and becoming a better person by doing it. So if you're on the post, just click on the graphic on the website notes, or go to affiliate deals in the blue ribbon at the top of the page, or go to www.nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and enjoy. Now, let's get back to the interview.
I like that, because I train with a couple of guys who are now like training up coaches, and that's what they'll say, little snippets which will just stick in your head, and you almost hear their voice play on a loop while you're rolling with somebody.
Yeah.
And it's weird that such a small thing pops in, and then you make it part of your just standard action, and then you think something else and go, oh right, that sticks. And it's like you say, you could, like, it's like the way you teach a beginner, I suppose. You could teach them to do a staple pass, you know, grab the hip, rotate it down, put your hands here, staple, blah, blah, blah. But if you go to OTT, it goes in one ear and out the other. You need to actually go, catch your leg, pin it down, step over it. And they go, right. And then as they progress, they can get the subtle nuances, the touches, the control, where to grip, where to put the pressure, where to hold, and why you do certain things. So how have you found that transition? You know, has it been a difficult thing to do that and compete and run your business and work? Because that takes that really does sort of tax the mind. You know, how have you found, like, do you like take notes on like a notepad? Do you do like PT lessons with a coach? You know, how have you kept that going from good to great?
Oh, I wish I was so perfect that I took notes like that. I take notes in my business a lot, and I take notes if I, if I'm listening to a speaker or if I'm listening to anyone not in fighting, I will take notes. But when it comes to fighting, it's all body mechanics, and I just really believe like my body is going to function as my body functions, not as my coach's body functions. So whatever moves my hands and feet and, can remember and do and accomplish, then that's going to stick to me. And I believe in repetition. Some people don't believe in drilling. I believe in drilling the fuck out of shit. Like, keep doing the same thing over and over again, because when you get in the cage or when you are competing, all that fancy stuff that you saw on YouTube that you tried in the gym and it looked really cool and you got it on your friend who didn't know anything, like, that's cute, but what you're going to remember are the basics. When your mind is racing at 1,000,000 miles an hour and you have another human trying to attack you, What you're going to remember are the things that your body did 100 times over. You're not going to remember that fancy spinning back kick. You're going to remember jab. So get that shit straight.
Because it's the thing is, like, you find your body starting doing it before you've even understood you're doing it. And I think there was I can't remember who said it was, every guy believes they could have got the girl if they went across the road and spoke to her. And every guy thinks they can win in a fight, you know. And you think they do not have a clue.
They don't.
When you've got somebody try to get on top of you to start pummeling the crap out of you, or choking you out, or smashing you, ready to smash your head in a curb or whatever. Yeah. It is a world of difference. Like,
so people see that I finish a lot of my fights with arm bars, right? And it's nothing special. Like, I'll fucking give you the secret. It's nothing special.
You win from it.
Yeah, it's not special. I just drilled it so many times. I used to sit there in class and just drill arm bars. And then after class, I'd grab a teammate and be like, hey, come here, let me practice arm bars. And it got to a point where, I was traveling one time and a coach was like, why are you doing arm bars? You already know how to do an arm bar. And I'm like, because I want to become perfect at it. Like, and that's like, that was my mindset, is like, I want to be really fucking good at this, and I'm already good at it. So why not be great at it? So, people like, they overestimate the basics, man. Like,
I like doing that with Kimuras and key locks. Like, I'm definitely like a side control player.
Yeah.
And I love doing pressure passing, but I was always shown how to pass a guard. And then I was shown like how to do a Kimura. But at no point did my original coach sort of show me how to chain them together.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes is they forget that, yes, we can have a syllabus and all that, but you need to show that move, and then you need to go again and again and again.
And again
to the
and
point,
again, yeah.
That you can do it with your eyes closed and you can subtly feel your way around. So how do you go about your business? Like, do you do it the same way as you're fighting and with your, or is it the same with your dancing? Did you learn your own way, or did you get a coach to help with the business?
So the way that I've navigated business is I really just, I learn, and, I take my time. I read a lot of books. I listen to a lot of audiobooks because I'm in the car so often. So I'm like, okay, this is the knowledge I want to obtain. Where's the book? Someone's written the book.
I can give you a good podcast to listen to.
Oh, yeah. See, things like that. Like, people are always recommending stuff. And I feel like when you're searching for an answer, it'll show up. Google is fucking crazy nowadays. You could literally teach yourself anything. I was a 9th grade dropout, by the way. A lot of people don't know that about me. But I dropped out of school in 9th grade, and somehow got my diploma and tried college a few times. It wasn't for me. Everything I fucking know, I've learned through reaching for the information. So anyone who says that they can't do something, shut up and go find it, because it's out there. But getting back,
I think that makes people respect you more, because you've not had like the easy ride. You've worked for what you've got, and not many people. There's a lot of people who can't say that. And I always respect people who come on and go, I didn't know how to do it, but they've built this amazing thing, but I've had so many mistakes. And I'm like, brilliant. Because I've made so many mistakes, it's not funny,
Yeah, serious. And I mean, it's, and I really just genuinely, if I need to know something, I find someone who knows what I need, or I read the book. I do it the hard way. And that's actually why I came up with Stripper Bible, because I had read so many books on shit I wanted to learn. And I was like, man, like, there's no book for stripping. So that, that was my inspiration for that, on top of jiu-jitsu, where I was like, I can create a training program for these girls in a similar fashion that somebody wanted to start teaching jiu-jitsu. So jiu-jitsu was really my inspiration for my business.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so how do you find that? I mean, do you kind of link it into, like, the way you do it with jiu-jitsu? Do you teach it in that kind of format? Because I think you said you taught the basics of how to dance, not in the first few chapters, and at the end it was how to do how to set up your morals, your how to set it up so you're not screwed over, how to understand the business side of things.
Yes.
Have you do you kind of teach the same way that you would learn jiu-jitsu? Do you teach that to the people, the clients and that you work with?
No, because I don't specialize in teaching skill work as far as body motions, which I could, but I want to focus on how to really reprogram their minds into being able to create income, which believe it or not doesn't come from dancing.
I love how we've been on for 45 minutes and we've not even really covered fighting yet.
Yeah.
But this is why I was so interested speaking to you, because that you've created a business that you do dancing where, you create these like beautiful images and motions and stuff, and then you go and beat people up and, finish your armbar. And that's what I found inspiring, is you're doing very similar to me. You're doing like working, trying to build a business and competing. And I know how difficult that is, and that's what I'm so inspired by. So how do you recover from this? How, like, when you're away from training, have you found any kind of training methods that help you recover? Do you do things like meditation, salt baths? Like, do you go and get deep tissue massages? What kind of things work for you?
The rest, the beach. I love the beach. I love being outside. Even like hiking would probably be physically exerting, but honestly, I fucking love it, and it makes me feel better. So even if I'm dog tired, I still might go for a fucking hike, because it's what's gonna give me that mental recharge and that mental reset. I love float tanks, but like sometimes being too quiet for me is like restless, so I almost get more restless because I start thinking and my brain starts going really fast.
And
meditating,
it's hard to switch off.
Yeah, and I tried meditating and I can do it, but it's not what's relaxing for me. What's relaxing for me is literally going for a walk with friends, laughing my ass off at some funny shit, and enjoying people's company, or going to the beach and, skateboarding on the beach, doing things that I love outside of doing the things I love, like fighting and dancing.
So when you're training for your MMA fights, or just training as normal, you've said in some of your Instagram videos that you never stop. It's like it could be the off season, but you're still ready to kill. How do you keep this going? Do you just keep working on your strengths? Do you look at developing your weaknesses as well? Is there like an overall time frame that you think, okay, 3 months away or 6 months away, I'm going to be working on this areas to develop myself? How do you keep this motivation? How do you keep improving? How do you have a fluid game plan that's just going to work against everybody, or do you have to analyze an opponent and think how you're going to compete against them?
So I'll start off with how do I kind of stay on edge. And I think that I always stay training because it's my habit. It's my life. It's who I am. It's what I do, even though I said earlier, those are two different things. But for me, like, I love it. I really, really, truly love it. And that's why I compete so well, because I am passionate about it. So for me to take a week off and go on a vacation, unless I'm spending specific time with my family, it doesn't even interest me. Like, after a fight, people go on like these 3-week binges or whatever, and they eat a bunch of food. And man, why do I want to do that to my body? Like, I love my body. I love myself, and I love the mental space that I'm in right now. And why do I want to change that so drastically and then have to come back? And now, I'm so heavy and my moves are different, and it takes a minute for me to kind of shake that rust off because I took so much time off. That mindset has never made sense to me. And I think, being a jiu-jitsu athlete, I took so much time to compete, and I was competing like every other week somewhere else in the world, like I was like going in between Canada and Abu Dhabi and traveling by myself. And it's like, you got to stay on your A game, girl, because if you're not training, you can't compete well. And you want to have confidence, and confidence comes from knowing your shit, and that comes from training. So for me, I just love it. And even on the days where I may not always feel so on edge, because let's be honest, it's unrealistic to be that on edge all the fucking time. I do it out of habit, because I've created such great habits for myself. And some days I go in there and I'm like, all right, today you're just going to focus on your technique. Maybe you're not going to be stupid aggressive. Maybe you're not going to try to out cardio everybody, but just get better. And what's that detail to get better? So habit, passion, that's what keeps me going. Now, you asked a second question about opponents and how do I train for my opponents. And what I do is I don't even really, most of the time, and it sounds so arrogant of me, but I hardly even know their names by the time I walk in the cage with them.
Well, you beat them up anyway, so.
Yeah, because who they are doesn't fucking matter to me. What matters is I take a look at their tape, I see their mannerisms, and because of being a dancer and because I have such a passion for fighting, I understand body mechanics to the point where I see them, I'm like, okay, these are their mannerisms, this is what they do, this is how they fight, this is who they are as an athlete. And then I keep doing my own shit, and I become the best athlete I can be to prepare for that fight. And that's it. I don't obsess over my opponents. I look at them once and then I move on and I keep doing what I need to do.
Because I love that, because you could look at them and say, well, I know they're putting their weight on their right side because of the way they're standing, where maybe somebody who's not used to like the body movements and compositions could actually understand that. That's an awesome way of looking at it. And I like the way that you're trying to be, the only opponent you really care about is the one that you see in the mirror. You're looking to improve yourself the whole time. I love that. I just wish so many more people would do that. Like, have you ever had a struggle leaving the ego at the door? Like, I went in tonight, had a bit of a session, and I mean, I got some taps and I got some things, and I realised when I was leaving, I was actually a bad training partner, because I was focusing on my own shit. I was focusing on, I didn't have a great role with that person, where I was thinking, in reality, was I a good training partner? Did I learn something? Probably. But did they get something out of it? Did I help them? And, I was thinking, it's not just about me, and I'm still at that comparing stage at times. How do you manage to just keep the outside chatter out the way and just focus on your own development, helping your teammates, being part of your sort of tribe?
So I actually have had this discussion before with one of my previous very close teammates, and both of us were very high-level competitors, and she was very overly kind to people, to the point where she felt like at times she was sacrificing her own training for others, where I at times have been a little bit more savage in my mindset, where I'm like, hey, I'm here for Mite. And I think the best answer to that is that there is no right answer. People's personalities are different, and you prioritize your training differently. But for me, if I have a fight coming up, like I'm sorry about like all my training partners, because it's about me. I gotta fucking win, and I'm gonna win this training. And if you tap me, I don't get mad about it, because I'm glad I have training partners that push me so heavily, but I'm not looking out for my training partners. Now, if I don't have a fight coming up, then I'm much more accustomed to like helping others to rise, where I'm like stopping, taking my time, maybe showing somebody else some details. If I'm in fight camp, forget it. Like I gotta get mines in. And if you're not doing it right, then let the coach show you, but I'm not going to stop my training to help you improve, because you'll improve on your own. But if I don't have a fight coming up, then it's totally different. It's a totally different athlete that's in the gym.
Because I call it like my white and my blue belt mind, because sometimes when I'm like competing and I've got to win every role, I kind of go, that's a white belt talking. Where the blue belt, it's like, okay, let's see what I can learn from this. I'm going to put myself in a dangerous situation to see how to come out of it, or I'm going to focus on like X in this role and the next one, and to build and improve on that. Like I was working on mount escape, so I was deliberately getting people to come into mount each time. So how do you when you're doing this, does it change really the difference with like a fight camp, or is it just sort of more focused and more intense? Is it like 2 a day kind of training, or
when I'm in fight camp?
Yeah, because I get the impression that you'd be training all the time, you'd be dancing all the time, regardless. Is it just that you're more focused and it becomes more intense during your sort of training camps?
So when I like you said, I always train, no matter what. So I guess like when I'm not in a fight camp, I still do all of the same training sessions with a different level of intensity. So I can have more capacity to go to all these camps as well as have the energy to go to work. When I'm in fight camp, my capacity shrinks because my velocity for the training goes up. So for each training session that I do, I'm giving more of myself to that, which means I have less left over to do things like dancing, and even in business. So it's like I have a business partner, and when it comes fight time, he knows he's got to pick up the slack because this is what I'm doing. So you do, and I think that this is where a lot of fighters end up struggling with their relationships and struggling with the people who are around them, because everyone else around us takes it personal. When it's like really like they should be there for us because we just don't have as much energy. We just don't have as much capacity to put up with the small things. And I know that sounds terrible, but it's true, No,
that makes perfect sense, because we would think that you're ignoring us because you're not focusing on us as much as you would normally, whereas you've got to focus on such a small area.
Yeah, we just don't have the capacity. Yeah.
And
it takes a lot of us to give ourselves to training. I mean, we're about to walk into a cage with another human who's trying to cause bodily harm to who we are as people. Like, fuck, I'm sorry that I didn't do the dishes today. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm single. I take care of my own dishes. But this is a very real thing that fighters have to deal with, because, we're training all the fucking time. But when we're in fight camp, we ramp it up,
That's why I got a dishwasher. I was fed up of doing my own bloody dishwasher. So for somebody who's listening, who's thinking, okay, I want to compete maybe, but how can they ramp up that intensity? How can they get aggressive when they need to be? Maybe they're like Joe Blogs, who's just come off, never really done jiu-jitsu before, or MMA. How do we turn on that? I mean, obviously we're not going out to kill our training partners, but how do we mimic that kind of aggression as much as possible in a role and stuff like that?
You remember that like 8-year-old that like stole the ball that you were playing with and you got really mad about it? No. I guess that's a really hard question for me, because I don't feel like everybody can be overly aggressive. There's different levels of aggression, and that looks different for different people. I have a friend who, she just fucking kicks ass at like every tournament she does, and she is the calmest, sweetest human ever. And even when she rolls, she's still very calm, and she almost pulls you into her game because she's so composed. Bia Mesquite, I know, is another one who's so calm when they compete. So I guess what I'm getting at is like, everyone's going to be different, and don't feel insecure if you're not as aggressive as, Billy right next to you, who wakes up and eats small children for breakfast. Like, it's okay. Whatever level you're at, just be confident in the skills that your coach has given you, and know that if they gave you the green light to compete, it's because they fucking believe in who you are today, exactly as you are, and take that into that arena with you. You don't need to be anything else. So take me, for example. That. I walk into the cage and I look like I'm skipping through a field of fucking flowers. Like, I'm the happiest person you've ever seen, But, yeah. And I mean, of course I'm aggressive, but yeah.
I think it was your Instagram. There's one picture, it was you and a training partner laughing your heads off. And the next one, it was like you in a triangle choking out somebody, I think they were going power call, and I was thinking, that just alone kind of showed the amazing different personalities of you. I mean, I've had so much fun, and I know we've talked around things. We've not even covered half of what I want to talk about, and I know our time's almost that, but I really need to get you back on. I think you're going to go amazing places, and it's been such a privilege to speak to you just now. But what would you want people listening to this to take from it? What would you want sort of the go-home message? If they could only remember one thing and everything else went out their head, what would you want them to remember?
It doesn't matter who you think you should be because of where you've come from. You can overcome anything, any obstacle, if you choose to put in the fucking work for yourself, because you are worth it to be better than you were yesterday. And every step is important. And I love you guys so much. And please remember to love yourselves through the journey and through the process. Be easy on you, because we can all be too hard on ourselves. It doesn't matter where you're from or where you came from. You can create greatness.
This is why I wish I could train with you every day. Like, I think you'd be a bloody awesome training partner. Like, scary, but well,
yeah.
I know you've got to go off to your training just now, but I mean, I've definitely got to have you on again. I've never had so much fun in an interview.
Thanks.
But for those listening, how can they watch your fights? How can they keep in touch? How can they, I don't know, can people come to your gym and train? Are you looking to start coaching people? How can we look at your next projects, and how can anybody listening get involved in the Stripper Bible? How can anybody listening get involved, like watch you perform and stuff like that?
Lil Monster Demo, LIL Monster DEMO. Follow me on Instagram, and I put my whole life is on Instagram. So I'm consistently posting stories. I engage with you guys. I love on you, and there's daily motivation on there. I have links to Athena Christina, which is my stripper personality. Got to be 18 and over. If I got fights coming up, if I got fights coming up, I'm always posting, fight news, and yeah, man, that's where you'll find me, is on Instagram.
Well, honestly, I've been smiling the whole way through it. We've covered just some amazing stuff without even covering into the whole MMA, jiu-jitsu, training kind of stuff, mindset, competition. So you can't escape. I've got to get you back on for a second one.
Oh my gosh, of course. This has been such a great podcast. You covered so many things that a lot of people just kind of skim right over. This has been excellent.
Well, I love having a kind of general discussion just to kind of get people to know you and learn about you as a person before we get into like the really deep stuff. And and I love just, even if I come away and just think, get to know these amazing people, and you're definitely one of them. You're definitely personify what the site's about, and you'll beat anybody up who says no to that anyway. So, well, we'll keep in touch.
You.
I'll send you the link when it's ready. But I mean, if the floor's open to you, is there anything that you want to mention? Any upcoming fights? Anything that you want to promote at the moment?
Not a thing, man. I'm a badass who fights for LFA, and if y'all want to sponsor me, hit me up. But no, you did such a great job. Thank you for having me on.
That's it for another week. Thanks for listening. Absorb it, practice it, use it. Until next time, keep trying to hit that next level in your life.